A plane is on fire.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
The captain has just heard a deafening bang from the cargo hold. There is smoke seeping into the cockpit. Alarms are blaring. Instruments are failing. They are losing control of the plane. The ATC is on the line, helpless.
Is it in the back?
But behind the scenes, something far more dangerous is unfolding. A chain of events that will spark decades of speculation, government cover-ups, conflicting reports, and whispers of something far more sinister. This is the story of the Helderberg incident.
Wings.
It's the dead of the night, 2:45 a.m., November 28, 1987. Inside the ATC tower at the Mauritius airport, there aren't many flights to handle at this hour. The air traffic controllers are waiting. The next plane expected is South African Airways Flight 295, known as Springbok 295. But the plane is just outside of radar range, somewhere over the vast Indian Ocean. And then, a voice crackles over the radio.
Mauritius, Springbok 295.
What the ATC believed is a standard check-in by the captain soon turned out to be something dark.
Springbok 295, Mauritius, good morning, go ahead.
Good morning, we have a smoke problem and we're doing emergency descent to level 140.
So you wish to descend to flight level 140?
Yeah, we have already commenced due to a smoke problem in the airplane.
Did you request a full emergency?
Affirmative, that's Charlie.
Yeah, I declare a full emergency, roger.
Thank you.
The ATC prepares the airport for a full emergency. South African 295 will get top priority and any and all assistance that they need. But just as they begin to coordinate, they lose contact with the plane. The ATC tries reaching out,
Springbok 295.
but just silence. The radio goes dead. He tries again, Springbok 295, do you copy? But there's no response. Seconds tick by, and then minutes.
Springbok 295.
For a whole half an hour, the ATC tries to establish contact with the plane, but the plane never responds. Search and rescue planes are scrambled, but they face a massive problem. They don't know where to search. The Indian Ocean is pitch black at this time, and it's vast. The last coordinates that the captain gave were approximate. His electronics were already failing by the time they spoke, and even he didn't know where they exactly were. And worse still, the plane is outside of Mauritius' radar range. They are just searching blind.
The search went on throughout the hours of daylight, coordinated from airports on the islands of Mauritius and Réunion. The 747 was about 150 miles out from Mauritius Airport when the captain radioed to request permission for an emergency descent because of a fire on board. Soon after, all contact was lost.
The plane started its journey at Chiang Kai-shek International Airport in Taiwan. It's a South African Airways Boeing 747 and it's called the Helderberg. This is an overnight flight to Johannesburg in South Africa with a refueling stop in the Mauritius. Now, unlike a regular 747, the Helderberg has what's called a combination design. In a regular 747, passengers sit on the main deck and on the upper deck, and luggage is loaded in the compartment below. But in a Combi design, the 747 carries both passengers and cargo on the main deck. This forward section is the passenger seating area, and the back 1/3 is for cargo. The two sections are divided by a bulkhead, and the crew can access the cargo compartment through a door. To provide flexibility for airlines, Boeing made a critical design choice. The bulkhead is not fixed, it's movable, allowing carriers to adjust how much cargo they wanted to carry at will. And to accommodate this, air conditioning isn't limited just to the passenger section, but it spans the entire length of the plane. But as we'll soon discover, this seemingly innovative design will play a crucial role in the disaster that is about to unfold. The search in the Indian Ocean continues, but no luck comes on the first day. It takes 5 whole days, and after an intense search, a very grim discovery is made. Small floating debris and 8 bodies are recovered from the Indian Ocean, approximately 200 kilometers northeast of Mauritius. This is the first physical evidence confirming that the plane has crashed. But aside from the small debris, the rest of the wreckage remains missing. The captain is David Ice, and the first officer is David Atwell, and the flight engineer is Garth Fry. There are 2 additional members of the relief crew, but they won't play a part in the story. During the initial pre-flight checks made by the crew, everything seemed fine, except for one small detail. The captain was handed a confidential document to sign off on, and he signed off, but he chooses not to share its contents with his crew.
Is it in the back?
140 passengers board the plane, and 6 cargo containers are loaded onto the main deck. During loading, a Taiwanese customs official decides to make a surprise inspection of the cargo. He checks it for about 10 minutes, and then he signs off saying, "Yep, everything's okay." Now the plane, delayed by an hour, departs Taiwan at 10:30 p.m. It climbs to cruising altitude, and the relief crew takes over from the main crew and flies the plane for the next 8 hours. The plane makes its way towards South Africa. But take a close look at this route. The plane appears to be deliberately avoiding land, sticking almost exclusively to international waters. Why? In the 1980s, South Africa is ruled by a deeply racist, oppressive regime. The country has stripped black South Africans of all their rights, making it a global outcast. Many countries around the world sanctions South Africa, and South African Airways is banned from flying over these nations. And as a result, South African flights are forced to take the long, circuitous route, sticking mostly to the oceans. Just like the route that the Helderberg is seen taking here. And at the same time, South Africa is actively fighting a war against Angola for its borders. And for that, it needs weapons and technology. But with sanctions in place, where can they get the weapons from? Taiwan is also a global outcast after being pushed out of the United Nations by China, and they are on friendly terms with South Africa. Taiwan is a major manufacturer of electronic equipments, and the 2 countries share military secrets, allegedly using passenger planes to transfer sensitive cargo, circumventing global sanctions. Now, given that the planes have to fly mostly over the oceans where radar coverage is minimal, South African planes rely on a high-frequency radio to transmit both their positions and to discuss critical information with South African Airways headquarters. And they do it via a station called ZUR. This station records all communications on magnetic tape for storage. Keep this in mind, something fishy is going to happen. Now, the 8 bodies that were recovered from the crash, they show signs of severe trauma. And when investigators conducted blood tests on them, they find soot and smoke in their bodies. These are clear signs that they died from suffocation and not from the impact in the ocean. The discovery of smoke, along with the radio calls from the pilots indicating fire, it sparked theories that the plane was bombed by Angolan terrorists. Now, to confirm this, investigators analyzed a few pieces of debris for signs of an explosion, like splatter cavities or impact marks. But they don't find anything. But while looking for signs of an explosion, they found something else more interesting. A partially melted tennis racket. A graphite tennis racket. Graphite melts at temperatures above 600 degrees Celsius. But planes are not designed to handle temperatures that high. And there should never be anything loaded on a plane that would burn at such extreme temperatures. So, what was the Helderberg carrying? Officially, the cargo is listed as medical equipment and textiles and sports gear. But investigators wanted to be sure. So they asked South African Airways for the original document, the master waybill. Curiously, this document is missing. It had been shredded immediately after the accident. And in its place, investigators are given an official copy, a copy of a document that no longer exists. Given the geopolitical context, can we really trust these records? What was really in those containers and pallets? As South African Airways Flight 295 soars over the Indian Ocean, we need to shift focus to another container. But this one isn't on the plane. It's thousands of miles away in Belgium. And in this Belgian warehouse, a container sits, sealed tight. Inside, it holds something valuable, something that could change everything. Odoo isn't just another business solution. It's the key to unlocking the full potential of your business. Whether you're managing sales, inventory, or accounting, Odoo gives you control, allowing you to start with the first app completely free. And here at Wings, we built our own website using Odoo's web app. Simple, seamless, and efficient. The same power and flexibility are right at your fingertips. All I had to do was follow 4 simple steps, starting with what kind of website I wanted, my color palette, the pages and features I needed on my website, and lastly, a beautiful theme. And my website is live and ready to be customized. I can use drag and drop blocks, add animations, rearrange elements, and add any font from Google Fonts, and so much more. Head over to odoo.com and start unlocking the potential of your business today. The first app is free, with unlimited hosting and support, and 1-year free custom domain, just like the first step in solving a grand puzzle. The investigators are given a copy of the cargo manifest, but given the geopolitical context, they aren't ready to take it as a truth. They hit a dead end. They need to find the cockpit voice and data recorder, the black boxes. Both black boxes have pingers that send signals for 30 days. But after that, they'll go silent. Time is running out. It takes 21 days just to mobilize a salvage boat and get it to the Indian Ocean. And by the time the team arrives there, they just have 1 week left before the pingers go silent. 1 week to find answers before they are lost forever. The 30th day comes and the 30th day goes. Neither the plane's wreckage nor the black boxes are found. But then the investigators learn about the Zoe tapes. If the pilots had communicated with the Zoe station about any emergency, the tapes at Zoe might hold crucial information. So they asked South African Airways for the Zoe tapes. Guess what? These tapes are also missing. South African Airways claims that since it's been over 30 days, the tapes were overwritten and not backed up. The tapes from the previous day are there, the tapes from the next day are there, but the tapes with the Helderberg information, that's been overwritten. With $1.5 million already spent, pressure mounts on the search team to find answers. In a desperate move, the team deploys sonar scanners to map the ocean flow. They have to find the black boxes, and that's their last hope. Now let's rejoin the flight at approximately this point. The relief crew has been flying the plane for the past 8 hours, and now they hand it back to the main crew to fly the last leg into Mauritius. The fire hasn't started yet. Remember the confidential information the captain received before takeoff? He decides to share that information with the crew. The captain reveals that his boss told him that there's a bomb on board. The first officer and the flight engineer are stunned.
Is it in the back?
Asking him, who else knows this besides you? The captain responds, nobody. He goes on to claim that the paperwork was forged and that it is a government-owned bomb. Almost prophetically, the flight engineer mutters, "We are dead." They are interrupted by the cabin crew, who ask them what they want for dinner. On January 28, 1988, 2 months after the crash, there's a breakthrough. A sonar signature of a possible wreckage is detected 134 nautical miles from Mauritius. If this is the Helderberg, it is far deeper than anyone has ever gone before. It's 4.5 kilometers deep. Even the Titanic is just at 3.7 kilometers. This will be the deepest and most expensive recovery ever attempted. Now, to confirm that it's indeed the Helderberg, they decide to send a submarine equipped with cameras. Unfortunately, the submarine needs to be attached with a 7-kilometer long fiber optic cable to transmit footage. Such a long cable does not exist. It needs to be custom manufactured, and that's going to take months. They also reinforce the submarine with thicker walls to withstand the immense pressure that the ocean would put on it. They also retrofit the submarine with better cameras to operate in the deep, dark ocean. Finally, they lower the submarine into the ocean and meticulously map the debris field. And bingo! Visuals start coming in. Scattered across the seabed are the twisted remains of a Boeing 747. The Helderberg has been found. The debris is spread over a vast area, a clear sign that the aircraft broke apart mid-air. And among the wreckage, the investigators find 3 wristwatches, frozen in time, marking the exact moment of the final impact. They are interrupted by the cabin crew serving them dinner. As they eat, 30 minutes pass, and then trouble begins. The first officer looks out of the window and he sees smoke over the right wing. An explosive sound echoes from the back of the airplane. The cockpit fills with a deafening blare of alarms.
Something's happening.
What follows is the beginning of a 19-minute nightmare that pushes both the crew and the aircraft to their absolute limits. Exactly 1 year after the crash, the search team makes a breakthrough. The cockpit voice recorder is found. It's buried deep in the ocean floor. But their happiness quickly turns into frustration. After spending so long submerged, most of the recording is corrupted. They have only 80 audible seconds. And frustratingly, the flight data recorder, which could have provided essential clues, is never found. It remains somewhere in the depths of the Indian Ocean to this very day. Investigators try rebuilding the plane from the salvaged wreckage. They are able to pinpoint where the fire started, in a container located in the forward right section of the cargo hold. And according to the waybill, the container only had electronics and medical equipment. But none of those items could burn at the extreme temperatures of 600 degrees Celsius. Smoke fills the cargo hold. As the seconds tick by, the fire intensifies, viciously tearing through the electrical wiring. One by one, the circuit breakers on the flight engineer's panel begin to pop in rapid succession. Each pop signals the loss of a critical system. Systems the crew desperately need to keep the plane in the air. The captain reacts swiftly. He orders the first officer to execute the emergency checklist.
Read out the fire checklist for us, please.
They make a sharp descent to 14,000 feet to reduce the cabin pressure and to slow the fire's deadly spread. The Helderberg's cargo deck is classified as a Class B compartment. While it has smoke detectors, there is no automatic fire suppression system. Boeing's design assumes that the crew can manually fight the fire with handheld extinguishers, since they have access to the cargo area. A cabin crew member grabs a portable extinguisher and races towards the bulkhead. Opening the door to the cargo compartment, they are met with a horrifying reality. The fire is far more intense than anyone had imagined. It rages out of control, sending thick, toxic smoke through the confined space. They spray the extinguisher fluid, but the small bottle is no match for the intense fire. Although Boeing designed the passenger cabin to have higher air pressure than the cargo compartment, so that opening the bulkhead door would force air from the cabin into the cargo area, preventing fumes entering the passenger area, but this fire is burning so fiercely that the heat generates extreme pressure in the cargo hold. And this intense pressure reverses this flow. When the cabin crew opens the bulkhead door to fight the fire, deadly smoke begins pouring into the cabin, suffocating the passengers. The captain reaches out to Mauritius Air Traffic Control.
Mauritius, bring back 295.
Springbok 295, Mauritius, good morning, go ahead.
The fire checklist requires the crew to land at the closest airport. But Mauritius, the nearest one, is still over an hour away. And there isn't much that the crew can do at the moment. The checklist then instructs the pilot to perform an action that few pilots have ever done before. It asks them to open the plane's door to allow fresh air into the cabin.
You need to open the doors. Repeat, open the doors.
But instead of providing relief, this move introduces fresh oxygen to the growing inferno. The fire intensifies and spreads rapidly. Thick black smoke engulfs the passenger cabin. People begin breathing in soot and smoke. The crew tries recirculating the air in the cabin, hoping to bring in some more fresh air. But this backfires too. Instead of providing clean air, they recirculate the toxic smoke from the cargo area, worsening the already dangerous conditions. And with every passing minute, the crew's options dwindle. One by one, electrical systems fail, leaving them with fewer tools to fight the emergency. As the fire rages, the heat begins to warp the very structure of the aircraft. Metal starts twisting under pressure, bending in ways the 747 was never designed to handle. And as the situation spirals out of control, the Mauritian ATC desperately tries to contact the Helderberg.
Springbok 295.
The intense heat burns through the aircraft's skin, compromising its structure. The failure begins around the cargo compartment, just above the bulkhead. Once the structural integrity is lost, the Helderberg splits into two, sealing its fate. And in that instant, the plane and everyone on board is doomed. Both halves of the plane plummet towards the ocean and crash into the water. And all of this happens within 2 minutes of the last communication with the ATC. So, what was in the cargo that caused it to burn at 600 degrees Celsius? Why was the master Weibull shredded? And why are the Zoe tapes mysteriously missing? What was on those tapes? Whilst listening to the cockpit voice recordings, the investigators noticed an odd conversation. When the first officer initially reported that he saw smoke, the captain didn't respond with surprise. He instead said, that can't be happening. And when the engineer suggested that they land at Reunion, which was closer, the captain responded with, no, I don't have a choice. This conversation caught the attention of the investigators. And then there was the reaction of South African Airways' chief pilot. Woken up in the middle of the night, he wasn't even told which plane was missing. The only words he heard were, we've lost the plane. Yet somehow, he knew. He just knew it was a Helderberg. Investigators began considering a chilling possibility. Maybe this wasn't the first fire the crew had faced that day. Maybe there was an earlier fire on the plane and the captain was ordered by South African Airlines to keep flying and to not land. Given the hostile surroundings, had the plane landed and the cargo didn't match the Weibull, South Africa would have had an international incident on their hands. This would explain the captain's hesitation and the lead pilot's knowingness. Had the airline given this instruction to the captain, that conversation would have been on the Zoe tapes. The tapes which are now conveniently missing. And then came another twist. Independent investigators discovered traces of a chemical called ammonium perchlorate in the wreckage, a key ingredient in rocket fuel. What was a chemical used in rocket propellants doing on the Helderberg? And why wasn't this listed in the cargo manifest? All these clues pointed to one conclusion. The South African government was smuggling arms. The shredded manifest and the missing Zoe tapes only added fuel to the fire. As investigators dug deeper into the arms smuggling theory, the apartheid government began applying intense pressure on them to wrap up the inquiry and cut costs. But the government's urgency seemed suspicious, almost as if they didn't want the truth to be uncovered. And in the end, investigators concluded without a definitive answer as to what caused the fire. The questions remained, and the truth about what really happened to the Helderberg may never be fully known. The Helderberg disaster didn't vanish quietly into history though. It led to critical changes in aviation safety, forcing the industry to confront dangerous gaps, particularly in cargo fire protection. The tragedy exposed the need for safer Class B cargo compartments. Compartments like the one on the Helderberg lacked automatic fire suppression systems. And after this disaster, international regulations were tightened. New rules mandated that cargo compartments be equipped with automated fire suppression systems, so crews wouldn't be left fighting fires with nothing more than handheld extinguishers. Changes were also made around cargo documentation. The shredded Weibull that clouded the Helderberg investigation revealed serious flaws in how cargo was being recorded and tracked. As a result, stricter documentation standards were implemented, ensuring that the kind of mysterious, forged cargo records involved in this case would never happen again.